Hey y'all, it's Barbie from Barbie and the Caveman, where a balanced table is a happy table. Now, my husband, the carnivore, loves to eat veggies, but I'm a vegan, and the little egg just is a little complicated. My purpose is to incorporate more veggies into all of our lives. So please join us today on the newest episode of Barbie and the Caveman. Hey y'all, it's Barbie from Barbie and the Caveman. Today I'm going to talk to you about some staples that we need to keep in our kitchen that makes our cooking so much easier, and that is vegetable broth. Now, using this 6-quart crock pot, I'm going to show you exactly what to put in, covering it with water, and it's super easy to create your own. First thing we do, of course, is to take our olive oil. I like the extra virgin because it keeps the flavor nice and mild. So I just kind of go around the pot a couple of times just to give it a nice layer. Then I turn it on high. Now I start then with the celery. The celery is really important because it gives it lots and lots of flavor. I then de-leaf it, crushing the leaves as I go, making kind of a bed in the middle of the pot. Crush them nice and good. Now these celery, these are out of my garden. You can see that the stems are really, really thin. Now if you don't have them in your garden, fine. You know what? The supermarket has it just the same. It's no big deal. Now, if you don't have celery, don't panic. Breathe. In your spice cabinet, I'm guaranteeing you have something similar. Celery seed. Works the same. That's fine. So, then I'm going to, the remaining 2 sticks I'm going to take and layer around the pot and make kind of a crown around the outside of the pot. Then, I'm going to go into my fridge and see what extra things I've saved. Now from onions, I save the bottoms of the onions, I save the tops of the onions, and I save the outer layer and the skins. Well, gosh, Barbie, why would you do that? Well, because it makes a terrific broth, because this is where a lot of the flavor is. And honestly, I just dump it in, whatever I have. Sometimes I have the tops of anything. Whatever you got. Now, any kind of dried onion, whoop, there goes part of it. Any kind of pieces of dried onion, just half or quarter. Make sure you separate as you put into the crock pot. Always great. Now, here's a piece of a Vidalia onion that I have. Now, remember the difference is Vidalias are much sweeter, but also when you take the skin off, they have more lobes. And I just cut it in 4, and again, separate it as I put it in. Now the more you separate, the more the hot water can get to all the pieces of the vegetables that you're putting in and start leaching out the flavors and the essences into the water that we're gonna put in. Make me oh so yummy. So now notice I'm just cutting things into chunks. All right, it's gonna sit here for about 8 hours. So give it a lot of space, because if you cut them too small, you're going to end up with some cooked mush that you're going to have to strain through a cheesecloth instead of just using, you know, a regular everyday screen or a sieve. And if you're lucky, if you make them big enough, you won't even have to strain it at all. You can just use a strainer spoon, pull the ingredients out, and then pour the ingredients into whatever container you're keeping it in the fridge with. So that's pretty nice. Now, next up, salt. Now, I like coarse sea salt. I love how coarse it is because it takes a long time for it to break down. And I feel it has a more even flavor when I use this type of salt. I use 2 heaping spoons, and then you're gonna add more later. So go light it first. You can always add more, my grandmother used to say. You can never take it away. So, words to live by. Now, from my pepper mill, I'm going to put in a couple, probably about a teaspoon, like a nice helping of whole peppercorns. Again, since we're using 8 hours of our time to do this, you don't want to go with very small pieces. Like when you start crushing the pepper, it starts getting lost in the broth and just dissolving into, like I said before, that paste. Now I am going with whole cloves of garlic. I'm just cutting off the ends, crushing it to de-skin. Yes. and pulling it apart where I have crushed and adding it straight to the pot. I'm going to do 3 cloves of garlic. And again, this is to taste. Say you get to the end of the process and you're like, Barbie, this was just not enough garlic. You know what? That's what garlic powder's for. You can always add, making it to your family's taste. And remember, you can add herbs to this basic recipe, making it more soupy, or you can leave the basic recipe and ignore what's coming, of course, in the video, and just use it to make rice or cooked pasta, or use it as a finishing sauce. Ladies, gentlemen, friends, the uses are endless. It's really a fantastic recipe. Now, don't judge me too harshly. The carrots. These are some sad little fellows. Oh yeah, look how limp they are. Now, usually I use carrot skins in the veggie broth that I make. But you know what? Today I have carrots that have seen better days. And there's no way I'm going to cook this up and serve this to my family. So instead, I'm going to chop them and give them another life as veggie broth. So notice I leave skin and all. I just cut them into really large chunks. Yeah, just throw them right in. Now at about this part in the game, I have a tea kettle full of water. I'm gonna start that baby up on high. Now I've already started my crock pot on high so that the bottom layer, the oil, and the bottom layer of celery are starting to warm. My dogs are going crazy. So this is terrific because it starts melding the flavors together and building a really nice base that you're going to work from with the broth that you're going to make. So hey, look what I found, a leek. Let's throw in a couple of layers of leek. Now, like I've said 100,000 times, use what you have. There's no right or wrong way to make a broth. There's only the right way for your family. They're yours. Feed them well. There we go. Everything's in. Everything I can think of, at least. So now this water's coming up to boil on high, and I still have my crock pot up on high. So here we go. It's whistling nicely, and I'm going to layer it over everything. Get it all laid down. Now, of course, you can add all kinds of things to this. If you want more celery seed, throw that in. If you want some ginger, throw that in. Whatever you like, this is the way this works. So, put your lid on. I'll see you about 4 hours or so to add in some herbs if you'd like to make a more herby broth, if you're planning on using it for some soup. Now, we have been working on this vegetable broth, this lovely vegetable broth. And now we have had the crock pot running on high for about 3.5, almost 4 hours. So it's got a nice bubble to it. Notice how much steam is coming out. Now I've backed it down to low because I want to throw in the herbs. As in the first part, I promised you that the bed of celery was going to make a great place to nestle in those herbs. So let me just set this to the side and let me show you a couple of things that I have. Now this is totally up to your own taste. So you have to choose, pick and choose, and decide what you want. Now, if you leave the broth just the way that it is, it's great to make rice. It's great water to go in as a finishing for pasta. It's great for steaming vegetables or green beans in a little basket in a pot. So it's completely perfect like it is. Or if someone's ill, it's a terrific way to give somebody just a cup of love if they're feeling poorly. Now, these are the things I'm going to add. I'm going to add some herbs. These all came out of my garden. So a couple of sprigs of tarragon, just to lay them in the top. I grabbed some Italian parsley and just chopped it up, stems and all. And I'd say it's about half a cup of that parsley. Now, I grabbed some oregano sprigs, just some fresh oregano. Now, this is kind of an acquired taste. Now, of course, all of these herbs you can get at your grocery store, or of course, if you're growing them in your garden, hey, this is Florida. We grow everything everywhere. So this is called a licorice basil. It's a little more potent, so I only put in about 5 leaves. It's kind of like cooking with a bay leaf. You want to use 1 or 2 because they're very potent. This is some purple basil. It really smells amazing. It's got a little bit of a cinnamon undertone to add some complexity to your soup. And if you notice, I'm just kind of scattering across the top. And then, of course, a little bit of chopped sage. So let me pull you over there so you can see. Yes. I know, it looks fantastic. And, sorry about that. So then with this, you just take your ladle, you gotta push it down into the sauce a little bit to make sure that it gets a good float going across the top, because you don't wanna get it too deep into the pot, because if you get too deep into the pot, it's gonna start to cook the herbs instead of just leach out the flavor and the flavonoids of the herbs. It's gonna make it really too, it's gonna taste like it's a little bit burned. So you want to avoid that, definitely. But the way to notice it's finished is, if you can see here, and I'll pull it over there closer to you, is a really nice deep colored broth. And another great way to check is to start looking at your onions. Now, this is really hot, so I'm gonna try to do it without burning myself, but to start see that that's a little translucent. So you can really start seeing through them. And that's a great indicator of how your broth is doing. Again, I hope you have enjoyed this. I will come back in a little bit to show you how to plate this up, and then of course the variations on how to serve this. And again, the original broth recipe you can use for all different things of cooking, but once you start throwing in the herbs, it starts making a soup of its own. So I'll show you in a little bit how to spoon it up, bowl it up for all the variations of vegan eating. Great seeing you guys. I'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, welcome back. Now, it's been about 8 hours since we started our broth. Now, about 4 since we put in the herbs. So I wanted to give it a pretty good stir to make sure that all the herbs have acclimated nicely into the liquid, to make it a nice, full, rounded broth. Now, we can do a couple of things with it. We can load it into ice trays, which we'll do in a moment, or we could serve it into soup.
Hey Mom, what's that smell?
Hey sweetheart, this is my son Sebastian. I've just been making some broth. Would you like a little bit of soup?
Yes, please.
Great. Now, do you want some, I just put some broth in the bowl. Now, would you like some rice in with your broth?
Yes, please.
All right, let me get a spoon. Nice little soup spoon. Let's go down here to the rice that I've been working on. All right, sweetheart, make sure you blow real good, because you know it's hot.
This is really good.
Good, I'm glad you like it. You want it in your lunchbox tomorrow?
Yes, please.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, we got the little one on board. Now, of course, your hubby's away right now, but here's some good veggie broth for your everyday needs. See you guys on the next installment of Staples for the Kitchen with me, Barbie. Good to see you.